Hey there, grape grower. This is Fritz Westover, your viticulturist here at Virtual Viticulture Academy and the Vineyard Underground podcast. I've got a grower question coming out of Mexico that I'd like to answer today, and hopefully this is going to help you and your vineyard as well. This grower has a question about some reddening on some of their vines that's happening late in the summer. And so when I look at this vineyard in Mexico, I can first of all see that there's lots of vines and not all of them are turning red. So the question is, why are just a few of the vines turning red, bright red, all the way from the bottom of the shoot, all the way upward to the tip of the shoot? Why are some completely red? Why are some only partially red? Is this virus? Is this something that needs to be dealt with, or can we fix this problem? These are the questions that I get all the time about leaf reddening. Now, these vines are young. So one thing I want to mention is not all vines are going to come from the nursery with a virus in them. It's possible for that to happen, but if you're buying certified virus-free vines, there's a better chance that you won't have virus coming in on your vines. Also, if only a few vines seem to be affected, usually that's an indication that it's not virus, because if it's virus that's coming from the nursery or coming from the wild, you might see more of it showing up or some type of pattern to it. But when you see just a random vine turning red in the vineyard, this is usually an indication that there is a problem either on the trunk or in the graft, if it's a grafted vine. And if we look at these vines here, it's a little difficult to see if there's any damage on this trunk, but one of the main causes of damage to trunks could be either mechanical weed control devices or the dreaded weed whacker. If you're using that in a vineyard, I really don't like to see growers using weed whackers or anything that could damage or girdle the phloem, which is on the outside tissues of that trunk, because that damage does not heal and the vines end up turning red like this, and then they end up declining and they can't produce a crop. So if you've basically eliminated the possibility that the vine has been damaged externally by equipment or by yourself or by a worker, the next move is to look for any issues in the graft. Are there any roots growing out of the graft union? Are there any bulges or callus? Is there crown gall, which is a bacterial disease that can grow in a graft if it's been cold damaged? So cold damage and or crown gall, they both tend to work in tandem, could be the reason that this vine is turning red. However, in Mexico, where this vineyard is located, it is not getting cold enough to cause freeze damage to these trunks. So what I would encourage you to do as a grower is go out and find that vine that's completely red, like this one on the left here. It's not going to make it. If it's this red and we're only in August or September, it's not going to come out strong the next year. There's definitely something clogging the pipes, the vascular tissue here, and it's probably a bad graft union that didn't heal properly at the nursery. So the way to find that out is to dissect that trunk, cut right into the graft union, make multiple cross sections with a sharp pruning shear, and look for any brown or black necrotic tissue that's inside of the graft. And if you see that kind of tissue, that's an indication that the graft did not heal properly, and now it's failing, and those vines will not be able to thrive. If you see some vines are green at the tip and reddening at the bottom, that just means that the demand for nutrients and water passing through the vine have not met a critical stage yet. So the graft, even though it might be damaged, is keeping up with the growth. But once you get too much foliage or any amount of fruit on that vine, that graft is going to fail because it can't keep up with that. So my advice here is to rogue and remove vines like this. If you do want to test for virus, you can send it into an accredited laboratory or university laboratory that tests for red blotch or leaf roll virus. I'm not saying not to do that, but I think the first thing you should be looking at before spending a lot of money on testing for virus would be to check out a few of the grafts and see if that's an issue, and then contact your nursery right away. Let them know that you've had the issue, document it with some photos, and hopefully you can get some clean, good replacement vines for your vineyard. So I hope that this was helpful to anyone out there who's seeing symptoms in their vineyard like we saw in this vineyard in Mexico. If you want to check out more resources, go to virtualviticultureacademy.com. I've got tons of free grower guides for you to check out there on all aspects of grape growing. And if you have a question for me and you want to get that answered here or on a future episode of my podcast, go to vineyardundergroundpodcast.com, click on the Ask Fritz button and type me a message. I read them all and I'm happy to respond. See you on the next one.